Hello, this is Liz, and this is The World According to Liz, our new podcast for Carroll Senior students. I have with me today Ayaan Didarali, who will possibly go by something else next year.
Possibly.
Okay.
What's up, guys? I'm Ayaan, but possibly might go by Adam next year in college. Great to be here.
We're going to have a little bit of a conversation. I'm going to ask Ayaan 3 questions, and he's going to ask me 3 questions. And in light of this, you're my guest, so you get to go first. What's the first question?
All right. Let's see. What life lesson took you the longest to learn, and why?
Oh, I still haven't learned it.
Really?
Okay, so the life lesson that I'm working on learning, actually there's 2. But the first one is I don't always have to be in control. You can laugh at that one because you know me. You've been with me a long time. But when we expanded into this building, I had to let go. When it was at my house, I did everything. I did the printing, I did the emailing, I did every little detail. One, over here, there are a lot more tutors, so they're doing their own thing, and I've got to make sure that they're doing it correctly. We have staff, and I have to make sure that they're doing it and what they're supposed to be doing. But instead of me micromanaging, because I want it done this way and I want it done now, and why can't you do 7 things at once? I can because of my attention deficit brain, but why can't you? So it's a matter of letting go and letting them be able to do their jobs to the best of their abilities. I've had other situations besides tutoring, but in business where you have to let the people excel in their own manner, in their own path, and without you. And that aspect of letting go is very difficult. Okay. The other part is allowing joy being in my life. Just joy. Just see things for the joyous nature that it is, as opposed to, well, it would have been nice if only. Well, it would have been nice if only.
Yeah.
So for me, it's always to choose joy. Choose to see the good things that come out of it. Even if you're in a bucket of mud. Well, I'm taking a mud bath. This is good. Okay. Or, when you slip and fall in the chicken coop and you're like, well, that was not fun. Something like that. But to choose the joy. Okay.
Yeah. I feel like I've recently I've started to look at things in a more positive aspect as well. Like I try and be appreciative of every situation. I get to deal with this problem. I get to be in the position that I'm in. And it's definitely helped me advance in a way where I'm not so negative. I'm always trying to be better in that sense. So I resonate with you on that one.
Holy cow. Okay. That's great. I'm learning all kinds of new things. Okay. My question?
Sure.
Okay. My question is, so I've tutored you since you were a sophomore. Freshman?
Yeah, end of freshman year though. I came a little late.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've had you for 3.5 years. I've watched you grow. I know who your friends are. I know, because I tutor other kids. So my biggest question is, what would be the biggest lesson, the most impact, and it doesn't have to be school related. It can be society related. It can be friendship related, social, personal, whatever. What was the biggest lesson that you learned in high school?
I feel like early on, I always tried to fit in. I always tried to be the person that everyone liked and everyone wanted to be friends with. But later on, as time went on, I realized I can't make everyone like me, and I have to do things like for myself instead of for other people. I have to put myself first. And like, even though that may sound a little bit selfish, like I realize like, okay, like in order for me to actually progress in this life, like I have to put myself first. And so I feel like that was a really big lesson. I mean, I've obviously learned a lot. But like, I think that one really like, I'm still trying to be there with that.
When did that occur to you? When did that kind of concept of, okay, I don't want to follow everybody off the cliff. You know the old saying with your mom, if everybody jumped off the cliff, would you jump too? Yes, I would.
Yeah.
When did you kind of come to this realization that, okay, there's things that are good for you that may not be that are good for other people, but what's good for you isn't what's good for them. And you had to separate or choose you versus choosing the group. When did this occur? Was there one precipitating event that happened that you went, no, I'm done. I'm doing this instead?
I feel like for me, it would have to be like, there was a time in my sophomore year, like transitioning between like, December and then the new year, and like December of, what was it, 2022?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2022, like something happened with a lot of my friends, and like I wasn't friends with them at the end of that situation. And so like that was kind of like a turning point for me where I was like, okay, like I can't, kind of like how I just said, like I can't make everyone like me, and I have to have my own routine. I have to do things like that. And so I kind of stuck with that for a while. And then I started dating this girl, and I
didn't even know that. You never shared that with me. Okay. All right. Okay. Continue. You dated a girl that, unbeknownst to me.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I dated this girl for almost 8 months, and we broke up in July of 2024. So it's relatively recent.
Okay. Right before your senior year.
Yes, this summer. And so we broke up, and like I was like, okay, like this entire time I've been doing things for her. Like I always put her first, like in front of like my school and like, my other extracurriculars and like things like that. And then after we broke up, I was like, okay, like I can finally like be alone and do what I need to do. So that was also like a second turning point for me where I was like, okay, like this is good for me. Because for the longest time, like, I mean, it wasn't really a good relationship. Like we were toxic in a sense where, like the topic of breaking up would come up like a lot. And, I'd always like be like, no, like we can work this through, but then like after we actually broke up, I realized it was a blessing in a sense where like I can actually start to grow again as opposed to just staying in the same spot. So, yeah.
Did you, because it was toxic, that's why you felt like you couldn't grow? Or was it because you're 17, 18 and you still don't know what you really want in life?
I think a little bit of both. I mean, like, I feel like it was kind of a mutual thing where we would hold each other back in the sense that like we would only stick to each other and not really progress. So like after it was over, that's when I realized like, okay, like this is what was actually happening. Cause I was honestly blinded by love in that sense. So like, but after it was over, I was like, okay, like this is.
I get it. You wanted to be with that person,
mm-hmm.
but you wanted to be with a version of that person that she may or may not have been able to be full time.
Yeah.
It was fun when she was that person, but when she wasn't that person, it was a nightmare.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of like a thing that I usually do is I create like an idea of someone in my head, and I have this expectation of them, and whenever like they don't really live up to that expectation, I'm just like, okay, like this is not how I thought it was going to go. And so that was a lot of like our relationship. But I mean, like it's okay, like.
But that's part of also where you said you were trying to find the happiness. At least you learned that lesson.
Yeah.
And better to learn the lesson now than in your 20s and go down the path of getting married and intermingling monies and all of that. So this is, and I will, my word of advice, the life lesson of Liz here is it's still high school. You're supposed to try on lots of different people at this stage of the game because you don't know what's going to fit and what doesn't fit. So, and you've also probably learned the lesson of don't make this ideal of them that they may or may not be able to fit into.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've learned basically to stand on your own 2 feet or find yourself or what makes you happy or better as opposed to following the crowd. That's a good lesson. That's very adult. Whoa.
Thank you.
Okay. Your turn. You get to ask me something.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. Are there any dreams or aspirations that you feel you didn't get to fulfill? Like, is there something that you've always wanted to do that you think that like hasn't really happened yet?
Be a goat farmer.
A goat farmer?
Yeah.
I don't really know too much about goat farmers. What is that? What is that like? Because I mean.
Okay, so when I first started tutoring, Rob and I have been working on our house for the 20-something years that we've been married. He hadn't moved in 6 months and he started tearing out walls and changing stuff up. Yeah. So we've changed the living room, changed fireplace. We're still working on the kitchen. Family rooms are all done now, finally. We have our bedroom still left to do. We've done the office so that the office was much nicer when we moved the business home. But in the middle of all that, like a couple of years after I was started tutoring, he asked me, he was just on the computer and I was walking through and he just randomly asked me, what do you want to do when you grow up? I said, I want to be a goat farmer. And typical Rob, he immediately throws himself into, well, do you realize how much goat cheese we'd have to make to support the goat farm? I'm like, no, I don't want to have a goat farm, like an actual farm. I want to have goats that, yes, we milk and we have cheese and we're going to eat a ton of goat cheese, but, and have goat milks for the grandkids and all of that. But I want to have a goat farm. Goats, they're friendlier on the environment if you're going to be a meat eater as opposed to a cow or a pig. They aren't as friendly as rabbits, but yeah, I've always wanted to have goats because they're fairly inexpensive to raise. You don't need a lot of acres. You only need an acre to have goats. In fact, there's that house on Dove near Sunshine. It's an older 1970s house, brick. It has a chain link fence yard. They have 3 goats. Now they got pigs too. Drive by and with the grandkids, slow down. We want to see the goats. We want to see the pigs, so they've got a whole farm on 1 acre. They got chickens too, of course. So that's the one thing that I've always wanted to do was to be a goat farmer. I've never wanted to like go see a Broadway play, or anything. So my 2 biggest regrets in my life right now would be I've never seen the Aurora Borealis, the Northern Lights.
Right.
And since I don't travel, I'm probably not going to get to see them. Now they were around last summer and you could see them in Dallas. And I could see a very light green haze one night. And my dad's husband saw them in Missouri as well. But we couldn't really see them. You didn't really know. I didn't know if I was imagining it or whatever, but I want to see the Northern Lights.
You want to see it, yeah.
I want to see it, exactly. But that, again, requires me going to Iceland, getting on an airplane. That's not going to happen. So I've kind of given up on that one bucket list item. But the other bucket list is to have a goat farm. So that's the only thing that's really unrealized. I farm, I grow my own food. I have my daughter, I have my grandchildren. We have our pets. I have a business. I get to tutor and teach and influence all these young people. So my life is very full, but that's the one thing is I don't have a goat farm.
That's interesting. When did you get into farming and everything like that? Because I know sometimes we'll be tutoring and you'll tell me the chickens were doing this or something like that. When did you really get into farming? Was that something that you were doing as a kid or what?
Well, okay. My grandparents, my dad's parents grew up lived in a small town in Iowa called Mount Ayr. My dad grew up in Mount Ayr. and it's called Mount Air because it was the county seat of Ringgold, was the highest elevation in Iowa. And most people, if you've been to Iowa, it's flat. It's really flat.
Okay.
But, so the elevation was probably all of 15 feet higher than the rest of the county. But my dad grew up in Mount Air. My grandfather was an insurance salesman. And he kind of, I don't want to say he swindled, but somebody come in and say, Frank, I know I owe you payment on, my crop insurance this year, but I just can't make it. And my grandfather, being the sly businessman that he is, well, Henry, why don't you make a payment by giving me that 10 acres down by the creek that you don't use anymore? And the guy would be like, yeah, great. Cause I can't farm it anyway. Great. That'll be it. So my grandfather acquired all these little parcels of land and essentially amassed 700 acres in southwest Iowa as a farmer. Now he still sold insurance, and in the small town he was very generous in a small town. But when we'd go up for summers to visit, because my parents, being the parents that they are, we'd get dropped off for 2 weeks, 4 weeks during the summer of go to your grandparents, get out of our hair. And so we'd get dropped off up there. And of course, what would I do with my grandpa? We'd go to the farm every day and we'd pick, because he'd have his own personal vegetable garden.
Yeah.
Most of the farming that he did was all commercial in the sense of corn, wheat, and soybeans. And so I kind of learned about summer wheat, winter wheat, corn, all of the different types of crops that they grow. This earth, that earth, different types of earth that they grow, how they rotated. I learned all of that growing up in the different summers that I spent up there. But there's nothing like going and picking your own melon and coming home and eating that melon for dessert for lunch or dessert for dinner. It is the most wonderful sensation, taste you've ever had, be it a watermelon or a cantaloupe. And with all that has gone on, GMO wise, true business farming in the sense of, between Monsanto and Bill Gates, and I don't know if these are actually true estimates, but I think they're fairly close. Those two own almost all the beef that is grown in the U.S. in some fashion.
Interesting.
So, and Monsanto being the drug company that they are, pesticides, herbicides, I don't want those on my food. So it became very important to me to start growing more food. And I learned to process food with my grandmother and then started doing it again in my 20s. And so, if I'm going to process it, I want to grow it because I don't want to get infected food from the grocery store and process it. Yeah. I want it to be my own homegrown food to process. So it really came about in the last 20 years because when you're a parent with teenagers, you don't have any time. I didn't have any time during those times. There's a joke. My dad came to visit us, and the backyard the grass was so tall. My sister came down and brought her basset, and all you could see was the little tip of the tail of the basset in the grass because it was so high. But I didn't have time to do anything. I was managing a house and all that. But when Kate left and I had more time, that's when I really started back into the urban farming. And there's nothing like the fresh eggs. So anyway, That's probably in my 40s is when I went back to farming. But I wish I had the goats.
That's awesome. I always see you. I always hear you talking about it. So I know it's definitely something.
Yeah. And you'll see me in my boots. I come in with my muddy boots or something like that. Or, when we tutored at the house, it was like, oh, I got to go check on this. Or, oh, I got to change the water on that. Yeah. So, yeah. But here at the building, I don't get to do that anymore. So, all right. My question for you now.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
I know you're going to Baylor. Yay.
Yes,
you're going to be a bear. Okay. You at home can't see, but I'm making the Sikkim sign with my hand. It is, right? That is the Sikkim. Okay. I got it right. Okay. So you're going to Baylor. What are your dreams and aspirations at Baylor and even beyond? What do you Do you know? I mean, and it's okay if you don't know what you want to do, but what are your next steps? This is a big, in the States, when you graduate high school, in the 50s, when you graduated high school, you went on and got a job, you got married, all of that. Not very many students went to college. Now, especially in this town, 99% of the kids go on to college. But this is still a major milestone. This is a big step, or we make it a big step in the life.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your next steps? What does your future look like?
Well, I mean, I'm extremely nervous. Like, I mean, the way that people talk about college and how it's such a big deal, how we make it this huge step in life, which it definitely is. I'm very, very nervous. Shopping for all the stuff in my dorm, like that scares me. But I felt the same way about high school. But either way, I'm pretty excited to like move forward. But as for Baylor, like while I'm there, I kind of want like a fresh start in the sense that like I want to meet new people. Like I feel like the last couple of months I've really been trying to like improve myself. And so like meet new people and just be a better person, be a better friend to like everyone that I meet. And I guess that's also kind of like why I want to like, have a different name when I'm there. I feel like a lot of times in my life, like my name is Ayaan. And so people will like it's just like a thing for me where I'll tell someone my name and they'll be like, what is it? What is it?
What?
Yeah. How do you spell that?
What?
It's just bothered me for such a long time. And the name Adam has always resonated with me. And so like I, obviously like using that name and just going about with that, like I want to just have a different approach and obviously change my mentality, like learn more lessons and stop making the same mistakes, because like, I mean, you make mistakes, but like you have to learn, because if you don't learn from the mistakes that you make, then, there's no point. Like you're just being stupid.
Young Jedi, you've learned well.
Yeah, but I mean, that's really like my main goal. I just like, obviously like academics for sure, like succeed. But like as for socially, I want to just be better, be a different person. But like my thing is like a lot of people I know are going to Baylor too, so like they already have like this perception of me, which like not necessarily, like I feel like it sounds like I'm saying like I'm a bad person or anything like that. But like, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to interject something. I'm going to wait for you to finish your thought because I'm going to tell you what the difference is for you to go to school now and me to go when I went to school. But go ahead.
Okay.
So yeah, you're going to school with lots of people that you already know.
Yeah. And like that kind of, I don't know how I feel about that, because I just want to meet like brand new people. And I mean, obviously like I will. Baylor's a huge school, but I'm still gonna like see people that I know and everything like that. But like, it's okay. Like that's life. Like I'm just gonna like see these people, know these people. But I mean, yeah, that's like for my life at Baylor. After that, like I don't really know what I want to do. Like right now I'm leaning towards like business, because that's what my entire family does. I mean, my parents, my uncles and aunts, my grandparents, like we're all in business. So I feel like me just going down that path kind of makes sense. But deep down, like I want to be a doctor. Like I want to go into the medical field. But then again, it's like all that schooling, can I even do it? Will I have the will to do it? Because every doctor that I've talked to, they're like, oh, like if you want to be a doctor, you have to like want to do it, and you can't give up, because if you give up, like if you're not feeling the motivation, then like there's no point, because that's what like 12 years to actually like become a doctor on your own. And so like 12 years of my life, if I'm not actually like feeling that I want to do that, then like there's no point. That's why I'm kind of like iffy on if I actually like want to go into something like that. So right now I'm just leaning on the business side. I don't really know specifically what kind of business I want to do. But I mean, that's just where I'm at right now.
Have you thought about, are you going to take some science courses when you go to Baylor? To dabble in to see if maybe science, and I don't mean necessarily just general science, but I mean more pre-med type of electives, because you're going to have to take a science. You're going to have to take, coursework is coursework where you have some foundational courses. So lean towards the pre-med path and see, yes, this is for me. No, this is not for me. Because that's what happened to me with school was I was 6 weeks at an engineering campus and went, oh, I don't fit in here. This does not resonate with me. Yeah. And, ended up changing my major drastically numerous times. So, what I was going to say about you going off to school, I grew up in the dark ages. We lived in caves. And so there was no social media. So when you did stupid stuff in school, there wasn't anybody taking a picture of it. There wasn't anything like that carried on with you. So when you went off to college, and even though I went to a small university, there were only 3,000 students on campus and another 3,000 that were either intern, there was a thing called co-op. So they would either be off campus or they would be grad students or things like that. There were 5 of us that went to school together, and there was only 2 that I saw randomly every now and then. The other 2 I never even saw. But what was neat is you could shed your skin. It was your graduation was kind of like the chrysalis of a caterpillar. You're in caterpillar stage now. You graduate, and over the summer, you've built your cocoon, and when you go off to college, you can open up that chrysalis and you become, and I know butterfly is kind of a girly thing, so we'll say you're a moth, okay? You get to be a lunar moth, which is not girly at all. They are stellar. They are beautiful. So, but anyway, but you didn't have the social media that followed you there. Yeah. Okay. And now you do. But I will say Baylor's huge. How many students is it? Do you know?
I'm not too sure.
But it's tens of thousands.
Yeah, it's a lot of people.
You don't have to see anybody from Carroll if you don't want to. If you want to see them, you can, but you don't have to. Yeah. When I started tutoring in kids, Arkansas was really mining a lot of Carroll students. And it used to be at Arkansas, if you got a 24, you got in-state tuition. So a lot of kids on their ACT were trying to get a 24 so they could go to Arkansas. And I remember one student of mine, his brother went to Arkansas, and he's like, yeah, I went up for a visit and I couldn't throw a dead cat without hitting an ex-Carroll grad. And I said, well, that's because your brother liked his Carroll feel and he was with his Carroll buddies. He goes, no, there are just that many of us up there. I don't want to go to school there. Yeah. And so, but it is a situation of, if you want to spread your wings, this is the time. Because you don't have to see your South Lake friends. I mean, you can, but you don't have to hang with them per se. As you said, there's going to be a lot of other people for you to see. Now, I do have another question, though, about that. Sure. Kind of. I know that you go to a very specific type of mosque, and I can't say it correctly. Is Smiley?
Yeah, Smiley, yeah.
Okay, all right. Do they have one there? Have you looked into that? Will you still be going there? I don't know how big an organization this is.
Yeah. No, I mean,
how many millions of people there are.
No, there's actually a lot of people. Ermani, one of your students, Ermani.
Yeah, Armani.
Yeah, she's her sister is actually going to Baylor with me.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But I mean, back to your question. Yeah, there is a mosque there. And I actually drove down to Baylor over spring break to go visit like one of my friends that are there so they could show me the dorms and stuff so I could know where I was going to stay. And then at night we went there and it's a lot smaller compared to like what we have in like Dallas or like any other city.
Well, Waco's a smaller city.
Yeah, Waco's definitely a smaller city. Yeah. But like, I mean, that's still there. Like I still have that group, that environment in the sense that like I'm not completely away from my religion, because Baylor's like a really Christian school.
Well, I was kind of delicately ask, how are you going to feel that you're going to fit in and not fit in because you're not the norm, Yeah,
I mean, I feel like my biggest thing is like I Okay, like something that I always try to stand by, live by, like I always want new experiences. Like I always want to try something new. You know, like every time you say no, you're saying no to an experience. Every time you say yes,
Right.
that's something new, you know? Even if you've done it before, like that's still like it's a new time that you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So like I mean, last year I actually used to go to church, the Gateway Church, in South Lake. I used to go there with my friends, and like I would, because I want to try seeing like what it's like to go to a church
Right.
as someone who's not Christian. And so like that was definitely an interesting experience for me. Like I really felt like a connection with God there. And then like later on I realized like, okay, religion, this is how I look at it. Religion is more of like a path that you can use to actually get closer to God. And I mean, that's really what a lot of religions are, like Christianity,
Mm-hmm.
and then, you know, my religion too. Like you kind of, you follow the Bible or the Quran, and you use that to try and get a better relationship with God. So I feel like either way, my relationship with God is like pretty firm, I feel. And either way, like I'm open to trying new things. Like I have to take the chapel class when I'm there. So I mean I'm pretty excited to see like what that's gonna be like.
Right. Right.
But yeah.
Oh, it's always good to learn new things. I mean, I don't go to church per se the way that people think of church,
Mhm.
because Sundays is my biggest tutoring day.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember a new parent called me. She goes, "Oh, well, where do you go to church?" And I just flat out said, "I don't. I'm tutoring on Saturday and Sunday. That's
Yeah.
not in my openness, you know." But I've never been one to say I don't believe or I don't have faith, because I don't have to go to a building to feel the experience.
Absolutely.
To feel that love, to feel that openness, that acceptance. But you know, and sometimes church does become a place of to be seen or to see. But I'm glad you've investigated that. Were you ever in high school? Did you ever have any conflicts with your religion and who you are with the other student population?
Like in the sense that like I wasn't comfortable, or like people were
Yes.
talking to me
Yes.
in a different way.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that's kind of where that came from, where I started going to church with my friends. Like I didn't feel like I belonged. I didn't feel like I, you know, like was supposed to be there, because South Lake is like a lot of people are Christian as opposed to Muslim or even my religion. But
Right.
like I did feel that pressure, which is kind of what like put me on the path to go to church. But I also did want to go, like just to like see and understand. But to answer your question, yes, like I have felt that way. But I like growing over time, I've learned to be like secure in the way I was brought up and the things that I do, and you know the path that I'm on. So,
Right. Well, you don't ever have to be fearful of differences.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that I've like learned over time. It took me a while to learn. I was like I wanted to be one of them, but then I realized like I'm myself. So you know.
I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. Okay. What's your last question for me?
Okay, my last question. What's a part of your personality that you feel is often misunderstood?
My brashness,
Your brashness. I've never heard that word. What does that mean?
or to be brusque. So, okay, you started coming to see me as a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
You've shared with me.
Oh my gosh, I was terrified. I was terrified.
Okay.
I went home that night and like I actually had nightmares. I was so scared, and I told my mom, I was like, I don't want to go back. I can't do that. Like, find me another tutor. But they made me keep coming, and I'm very happy about that.
Okay. On one of the other podcasts, I talked about staying in my lane because I made sixth graders cry. So yes, okay. It's the same type of thing. So there's no filter in my frontal lobe. Okay. And I tease that, one, I have ovaries, so we think circularly. And two, with my attention deficit, it's like a circle slinky that's constantly going, yee, yee, yee. And so there are thoughts that fly out of my mouth that probably shouldn't. So that, the fact that I cannot play poker, everybody knows exactly what I'm thinking and who's in trouble and who isn't. And yet, but I'm just as quick usually to forgive. So that's probably the most misunderstood aspect of my personality is when you step out of line with me, you are going to get a ration of trouble.
Yeah.
That's not usually the word that I would use. But then as soon as you realize your mistake or apologize or whatever, then I'm the first one to embrace you back in. Okay. Yeah. I mean, you've never cried in my office, but
I wanted to.
But there have been some, and not necessarily because I made them cry, but this class is so hard or this is so hard. I'm the first one to try to embrace, students. There's, one little girl who she was walking up the path and her mom said something to her that was like, you need to do well today. And she turned around and looked at me and was just like, I can't do anything. She couldn't even take another step because she was so fearful. And I enveloped her in my arms and she just broke down. And the mom saw that. Well, the next time the mom came and brought her, the mom's bringing me flowers because she's like, you apparently understand my daughter better than I do. I was like, no, but I could tell that she was very upset and there's a lot of pressure on her. So, but yet I can be very harsh without realizing that those are words and those words can slice just like an action can.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's probably my brashness, the briskness of me, I can be very confrontational without meaning to be. There are times where I do mean to be, yeah. Oh, you are in a world of hurt, boy, but there are times where I'm not, and I just don't mean to sound the way that I do. And my mom even tells me, she goes, I just chalk it up to you being a teacher. I'm like, what? And she goes, well, you're constantly correcting students, so it would just naturally overflow that you correct everybody around you. So, and that kind of hit me, like a ton of bricks. Now, Of course, I wanted to say to my mother, but you are wrong and I am right. But so now I don't speak up as often to prove that I'm right.
Yeah.
It's not as important.
Yeah. That's interesting. But I feel like overall, I mean, like, obviously there have been times where like, I haven't been doing well or like, I'm not Albert in your class. But
we have to explain the Albert concept.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, I don't really. When was this? Like one time, I think we were doing physics.
No, it was chemistry.
It was chemistry, and I like started to actually pick up on what we were learning, and I was like, you can call me Albert. You can call me Albert Einstein, and so every time that like I'm in class with Miss Liz. And I actually started to pick up on it. She'll be like, welcome back, Albert. Like, but I mean,
Yeah.
But I feel like, so like, yeah, like there'll be times where like, I'm not doing that well, but then I will be doing well. And then like, but either way, I feel comfortable knowing that like you will teach me what I need to know. Like there's never been a time where like I have to take a test and like I'm worried about it, and then I come to your class and then I'm still worried about it. After I come to your class, I feel more secure in what and how I will do on the test or whatever it is that I'm doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I give you a sense of confidence.
Absolutely.
It's not just the knowledge, it's the confidence of, welcome back, Albert. You can go do this now.
Yeah. But it's not only from like an academic perspective. I feel like you're very relatable in the sense that like I can come to you and talk about things that like I can't really talk to like another adult about, because they still think like, oh, like you're young, you know, like you shouldn't be thinking that way, you shouldn't be talking that way. But you know, like you've been in our shoes, and like you know that like high schoolers think a certain way, and so like you are very relatable in the sense that like I can just talk to you about anything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I try to be, you know, I mean, we all know I'm 62 and therefore not hip, but I do try to be hip.
Yeah. No, I think it's great the way that you go about things.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just shouldn't be quite as scary to freshmen.
No, I think that's definitely the route to go. I mean, obviously it worked out pretty well. Like you know, I was a terrified freshman, getting nightmares, and now I'm a senior going to Baylor next year, and I'm sitting here on this podcast with you. If I told my freshman self that I would be sitting here 3 years later in a podcast with you, I would never believe it. Like,
probably.
It's crazy. It's
probably
crazy. But see, that's what I'm saying. Like you're very relatable and easy to talk to, and you know, I just admire you as a tutor.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
When Rob started dating me, I didn't call his mom, and he'd say, you know, oh, well, Liz wants to do this, or oh, Liz wants to do this, or Liz wants to send my girls this, and Rob's mom turned around and said, well, you've got yourself a nester. And I was like, what does that mean? And he goes, you're just very nurturing. That's just your style. You're a nester. You want to make everybody in your nest. You want to feather your nest. And I'm hoping that's what this building turns into.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
With not just with me tutoring, but with other people tutoring as well. Okay. So I have my last question for you.
Sure.
As you said, you are your senior self now, about to graduate. You graduate in 8 weeks. I can believe it's
8 weeks.
Maybe even 7 now.
I think 7. Yeah.
7 weeks.
Oh,
okay.
That's scary.
Okay. So you should be scared because it is a step, but it shouldn't be so scary that you can't make that step. Okay. Fear is going to be part of your life always.
Yeah.
Know that. It's how you conquer the fear. Okay. Do you lead? Do you follow someone? And those are your choices to make. Okay. But regardless, if you had to leave words for your freshman self or for other freshmen that might be listening to this, what would be those words of encouragement, words of advice, words that they should try to live by?
That's a tough one. I feel like there's a lot that you could say. But
we have time.
I feel like a lot of people will take things extremely seriously. But naturally, I mean, like it is high school and like you do have to apply to colleges eventually. But I think it's important to understand that like it's okay to let go every now and then and like have fun, like just be happy. I feel like a lot of like freshmen that, you know, are like not nerds, but like, you know, they're very smart and they only study. They're very stressed because like they're not letting go as much as they should. And I feel like that's pretty important because like if you're so caught up in your work, you won't have time for like anything else, and that's how relationships get hurt, and you know other factors in your life, they get hurt as well. So I guess just like my biggest message is to just let go every now and then. But
so find a balance.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be all work, shouldn't be all fun.
Yeah, definitely not.
But it needs to be some sort of balance in between.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else you want to say to your old previous freshman self?
This kind of contradicts what I just said, but like work hard, obviously. Like you can't progress without working hard. And I mean, like, I see so many quotes all the time that are just like circulating around work hard and like, whatever. But that's like the biggest thing. Like, you just gotta be smart with what you do. And
Cool, but that's that balance.
yeah,
You can't play all the time because you're not going to get ahead.
yeah,
But you can't work all the time because you aren't building relationships.
yeah.
And life has to be some sort of mixture of relationships and work.
Yeah. I feel like I didn't find that balance until like recently. Like, I mean, junior year or end of sophomore year. Like, freshman year, I'm not gonna lie, like, I was messing around like a lot. I wasn't really focused on the work as much as I should have been. But like over time, like, I learned that like I have to have a good work-life balance. And I wish that I learned that earlier, but like, I mean, I'm where I'm at right now. And that's for a reason. Like, I'm here because of the steps that I took. And either way, like, I don't think I would do anything differently. I try and live my life with like minimal regrets. And so, I mean, that's pretty much it. That's where I'm at. So.
Well, that sounds awesome. Congratulations
Thank you.
on graduating in 7 weeks. We will get you there.
Yeah,
And congratulations on going to Baylor.
Thank you.
And thank you, Ayaan or Adam, for coming on my podcast.
Thank you for having me.
The World According to Liz. All right, cool. Thanks.